Hello, everybody. There's a ton going on in the world of tech, data, and AI, and we're going to take a look at some of those things. Probably the biggest thing that happened this week is that when you were sharing your chats within Claude with your friends or your family or your coworkers, those were not private. Those became public. On X, a ton of people were reporting on this, and you can see right here, this is Google. If you search site Claude AI share, a ton of people's messages were being indexed. And yes, they did fix this and patch this fairly quickly. It took them less than a day to patch this and fix this, which is great. But the issue is that it happened. And if we know anything, it's that on the internet, anything that happens there stays there forever. So you can't just kind of take that back. This can be seen right here because it says they deleted it, but the internet didn't. Somebody pulled all of this and put it into a GitHub so you can just search it and you can look up anything you want. Now, some of the things that they found were things like medical records, tax documents, private company information that they were sending to employees. And so this isn't like small stuff. These are really personal or even private things that should never be shared, with the public. This is just meant for like a spouse or a company or something like that. Obviously, this is not a very good thing to have happen. You don't want any of your private stuff leaking, especially as these AI companies are trying to, earn your trust. They are actively breaking trust. And it's not a good look, right? Of course, that has happened with a ton of other companies, not just, AI companies. This has happened with Google and Meta and a ton of other tech companies where they accidentally or not accidentally leak your information and a ton of your private stuff gets out there. The next story for this week is layoffs. Now, there's a company called Monday.com, and if you don't know it, it's kind of like Jira and a CRM built together in a way, I guess. But Monday.com is really popular, but they just let go about 20% of their company, which is about 600 employees, because they want to have an AI-driven growth strategy. So they're basically saying we want to invest more in AI, so we have to downsize. Because as everybody knows, the people or the salaries that pay those people are the biggest cost to almost any company. These are not the only layoffs happening in tech right now. We have some in Microsoft, Oracle, GitLab, and Google. A lot of this is just normal business turnover. This isn't anything scary or anything like that. But what I will say is, again, we have GitLab right down here saying, hey, we're letting go of 14% of its staff to fund our AI infrastructure investment and handling surging traffic from AI workflows. And so as more companies are just trying to invest in AI and build up that side of their business, they're like, we have to let people go. We just don't have the money to be able to do both. We can't build up this huge AI infrastructure at the same time we employ a bunch of people. That technically is going to be an AI-related layoff, even though AI isn't replacing them or replacing the work they're doing. Other employees are going to have to pick up that work. They're just saying, hey, we want to invest and build out our AI infrastructure more, so we're letting you go. The last story that we're going to look at this week is from Robert Half. They're basically just a consulting and kind of a tech consulting company, but they write a lot of articles and they kind of collect a lot of data on this stuff. But they release certifications worth pursuing in 2026. And it says right here, across business intelligence and data roles, holding a relevant certification can boost pay by 10 to 20%. Now, here are the certifications that they actually recommend: the Google Data Analytics Professional Certificate, Microsoft Certified Power BI Data Analyst Associate, the Tableau Certified Data Analyst, AWS Certified Data Analytics, and the IIBA Certification of Business Data Analytics. Now, I personally have actually taken every single one of these except for this last one. This last one I haven't taken. Now, here are the ones that I actually think are really relevant to getting any type of increase in your pay, because that's what it's specifically talking about. I actually think only these three are good for increasing your pay at all. The reason being is that this Google one is very much an introductory one, right? You'll learn stuff. It's a good course if you're very much a beginner, but it's not going to get you any type of pay raise, in my opinion. And this one, I looked into it myself. It looks fine. It's just not one that I personally have taken or even seen out there in the real world. Whereas these ones, I've taken these, I've seen these, and you actually can, if your company actually uses these can absolutely get you a pay raise, because they're saying, hey, you're investing in learning these skills, you're upskilling, and you have what we need at this company. Sure, we'll give you more money. That is absolutely a real thing. So that is all we have for this week. Again, that data leak for within Claude is like so simple too, right? The bug or the actual patch to fix it was apparently super easy. It was just public versus private, and they accidentally made it public instead of private. It's a super easy fix. And that's the kind of stuff that they shouldn't be getting wrong, No company should be doing that, but they do. And of course, these mistakes happen with any company, but when you have such private information, not just, an email or your date of birth or something, we're talking about like private conversations. That's the kind of thing that you don't want public. Like nobody wants that stuff public. Maybe you're sharing it with like a therapist or something like that. And it's like, you don't want anybody reading this. But like I showed you earlier, people are already putting this in GitHub and they've already got all those conversations. I saw some of the things that people were digging into it and they were looking at these conversations. And some of this stuff had really personal stuff. And you don't want that to ever be public, like I said. And so some of this is like, just a personal thing, but some of it's also like company related things. Like people are putting a lot of things into Claude and ChatGPT and all these other AI systems that they probably shouldn't, because it gets trained on that, it gets indexed, and then, they can give that as an output later on. So you don't want to be putting that kind of information into these AI systems anyways. A lot of these AI systems do have private features where they say, hey, we're not going to use this at all. This is completely local. I know I at least have that on my desktop version of Claude and Codex. And so you do have the ability to not even have it be able to be trained on it. Again, is that 100% bulletproof? I don't know. It is very possible with a flip of a switch, just like that. Now all of that stuff is going to be in their training data and, we can't do anything about it. With that being said, that is what we have for this week in tech, data, and AI, and I will see you next week.